Welcome to the Advance Your Art podcast, where we talk about the journey from artist to entrepreneur and everything in between. You've worked hard to hone your craft. Now take it to the next level with tips, techniques, strategies, and routines used by successful artists to grow their businesses and careers. Now, let's get started and have some fun with your host, Yuri Cataldo.
Hello, Michael. Welcome to the show. How are you doing this evening?
I'm doing great, Yuri. Thanks so much for having me.
Excellent. Of course. It's my pleasure. Thank you for joining me tonight. I'd like to start off because of the fact that you've done a lot of different things, and I'm going to start unpacking some of those. But because you've done so much and you're doing so many cool things, when somebody asks you what it is that you do and how do you describe yourself, what's your answer these days?
Well, I mainly, I like to think that I inspire people to never give up. Most of the work that I've done has been kind of in that area. Mm-hmm. When you talk about my music and the website Rise Up 8, and anything creative that I've done has kind of been in that direction. So I think that's a good start right there.
Sure. It's a good answer. So let's start with Rise Up 8, because I believe that is your most current project. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what inspired you to start Rise Up 8, and what is that organization about?
Well, Rise Up 8 is a website where we interview people from all over the world who have overcome adversity in order to succeed. And anyone who is successful in life will tell you that they've gone through some adversity that they've had to conquer. Mm-hmm. And it really is very common. So people, when you get into this situation where you feel like you're alone, you're going through this terrible situation, whatever it might be, and you feel like no one else in the world has gone through this. Well, the reason we created riseup8.org, the website, is to prove to people that you are not alone in going through adversity and that everyone has adversity. Mm-hmm. And so by reading the stories of these other people who have gone through these things, not only can you feel like you're not alone, but you could also learn something from any of these people. And I've learned from so many of these people. And from my own experience with adversity, which led me to create Rise Up 8.
Mm-hmm. Sure. So, because of the reason why you started it, would you be willing to kind of go through a little bit of the adversity that you're talking about that inspired you to create this powerful platform?
Sure. Well, basically, as an entrepreneur and a music multimedia artist, I really wanted to make a difference in the world. I spent about 12 years working on a music and film multimedia project called X, the Human Condition, which was to be a message in a bottle sent out to all the people in the world who felt like they didn't fit in, who couldn't find their place in the world, which is how I felt. But all the people in the entertainment industry that I went to told me it was impossible. So what I did was I attempted to do it on my own because I felt it was my mission. Mm-hmm. So I financed the film myself. I took money out of my business and attempted to put this all together. And during production, I found myself on the brink of bankruptcy. I became seriously ill and nearly lost my vision permanently after I was misdiagnosed by the head of a New York hospital eye department. Wow. I was then also diagnosed with chronic kidney disease at the same time. Basically, I went from health and prosperity to hopelessness within a matter of days.
Oh, wow.
But eventually, despite what the experts told me, after several years of fighting this and really going through many ups and downs and many setbacks, I was finally able to reverse the process of the disease through alternative medicine and diet and nutrition. And in fact, the last minute second opinion saved my vision. And through sheer determination, I was able to save my business and released the multimedia project finally. And we got rave reviews from all over the world. And I realized that I was not the only one that had a story of overcoming adversity. So I started to think, well, what if I was able to create a website where I could tell not only my story, but maybe hundreds of other people's stories who have all been through adversity, who have overcome what others call impossible. Mm-hmm. Just as I did. And so I thought, well, what am I going to call it? And I came across the Japanese proverb, fall down 7 times, stand up 8. And I thought, well, that's pretty cool, but what about rise up 8?
Yeah.
Doesn't that have a little more power to it? I don't want to stand. I want to rise, We should rise. So that's where it came from. Fall down 7 times, rise up 8. And in a nutshell, that's really the story. And it's not really so much the specifics of my story, what I went through, because everyone goes through hell at some point in their life, right?
Right.
It's just different facts. But the point is, it's not what you go through, it's what you do with it. Mm-hmm. You can fall apart and become hopeless and depressed and give up, or you can become a fighter and you can fight through it and become inspirational to other people. Mm-hmm. Become an inspiration to other people. And the interesting thing is that, my original message of X, the Human Condition, the music and film multimedia project, was you are not alone, because I felt, like I said, that I felt like I couldn't fit in. I couldn't find my place in the world. That was the original message. But then it grew to become more than that. It became, don't give up no matter what you go through. But the interesting thing is that through everything that happened, and this is pretty wild, mm-hmm. that original message, you are not alone, actually became real, because in the creating of the website, now we've created a community of people who are sharing their stories of everything they've been through, which is proof that you are not alone. Mm-hmm. I didn't plan any of this, but it all took me to this place where I needed to go. And this is a real lesson for people who are going through adversity. Is, I speak to so many people and I interview them and I ask them, if you didn't go through all this adversity, if you didn't go through all these horrors and this horrible time that you had, would you be where you are today, being successful? And everyone that I ask says, absolutely not. I had to go through that. Mm-hmm. Because coming out of that, all that negativity and the depression and whatever you go through, you learn from that, you grow from that, and you become stronger. And so it's like life is a series of mountains. You have to climb one mountain only to reach the bottom of it, and then you see an even larger mountain in front of you. Mm-hmm. So you have to climb that one, and so on through your whole life. This is what life is. It's a series of mountains that you have to climb. So the reason that you can climb this huge mountain now is because you already climbed 10 of them in the past, and you can do it. So this strengthens you to keep going. Mm-hmm. So if you are going through adversity now and you're listening to this, realize that there is a reason for why this is happening, and it won't become apparent until later on. And then you could look back and say, oh, now I see why I went through this. Because I'm in the place now that I wouldn't have got to if I didn't get there, mm-hmm. get through that thing in the past. So it's kind of, if I could use a curse word here, it's a mind fuck. Because it's like, wow, I mean, when I think about all the things that I've been through, and of course I told you the short story. The interesting thing about all these people's stories is you can go through your story within 30 seconds or a minute, but this took years, right?
Yeah.
So we only hear like the short version, but people go through hell for years. You know, people are homeless. They're seriously ill for years, and they go through major pain, and they have no job and they have no money or whatever it might be. Mm-hmm. And we hear their story in 30 seconds. We say, "Oh, that's bad," you know. But no, it was hell. It wasn't bad, you know. So it's interesting whenever I'm telling my story or someone else's story, or I hear someone's story, a short version of it, I realize that they went through a lot more that they're not sharing, mm-hmm. you know. So, but, you know, again, what I'm saying is that it's not the circumstances, the specific circumstances of what you're going through. It's the fact of what you do with it. Mm-hmm. So what I did with it is I realized that, you know, I've been through all this stuff. Maybe I can help other people who are going through some kind of hell on their own and feel alone and feel like no one else is going through this kind of thing but me. Maybe I can get through them and say, hey, you're not alone. And don't give up, because look at all these other people who have been through hell. Mm-hmm. And they didn't give up, so neither should you.
Yeah.
So I turned the negative into a positive, which is what you should do, you know. It's a cliche, when life gives you lemons, make lemonade, right? But it's
right.
true. It's true. This is what life is. Life is not a fairy tale. But I like to say that life can be a fairy tale in reverse if you let it. So you have to be strong, you know. Life is not, you know, it is not a fairy tale. Mm-hmm. So you really have to, it's survival of the fittest. It really is. I mean, you know, centuries ago, it was certainly survival of the fittest. Even 1 century ago, or 2 centuries ago it was. And now, you know, we have cities and industrialization and technology, and it becomes easier for the weak to survive. However, you know, what comes down to it, when it comes down to illness and having a home and making money and all that kind of stuff, there is still people, you know, who can't even deal with that, you know, and you just have to, you really have to be strong in life. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the main things that I've learned. You know, I was a little spoiled as a child. I was a latchkey kid. I was kind of left to my own devices while my parents went to work. And I was left at home on my own. So I was very creative as a kid. But it's like, you know, when you're protected by your parents, it's quite a different world when you get out into the real world and you're on your own. Mm-hmm. And this is what's called growing up. So, but some people who are adult never even grow out of that. They latch on to other people. They become stuck in relationships that are maybe not healthy for them, just because they need to be with someone. And that's another form of adversity. But, you know, just the fact that you just have to realize that, life really is, it's almost like a video game. You know, you can play on that first level, and then you have to beat that boss, and then you get to the second level, in the video game, just like life, and then you get up to this higher level, and you can get knocked down again, and then you have to respawn and start all over again. But the good thing is you can still retain all the powers that you had on that first level or second level, mm-hmm. and so you're leveling up each